through a platform called Menti. Today's presentation is going to be, going through, the strategies and barriers to get buy-in and address resistance, including the poll for, an anonymous poll from your end as well. And we'll get to that in a minute through a platform called Menti. Followed by the panel discussion, then the Q&A, as well as the short feedback and wrap up in the middle. So if you do have questions, please do put them in the chat. We're going to have also two amazing panelists I mentioned earlier, Rudrashi Zoy as well as Alexa Marinkovic from Microfin, and Rudrashi Zoy from Responsibility that are going to be speaking to us later today. So before before we move forward on resistance and bias, I wanted to mention a couple of minutes on gender equality and gender mainstreaming from theory to practice. And so gender equality, I wanted to mention a couple of things here before we move forward. So gender equality goes beyond how does it work in practice? That's the part that I wanted to get to before. Gender equality goes beyond, numerical values. It's not a numerical number, if you will. No, it's not only about 50% representation in staff or clients. It's rather about a very intentional and an intersectional approach that considers the lived experiences and the needs and the challenges and the aspirations of different segments of women and men with all their diversities as a starting point. As there is no set recipe for gender mainstreaming and gender equality, we always need to analyze the gaps beforehand within our context, within an institution, and within our service offerings to address those accordingly. So we always need to start with an analyzing first. There is no set recipe nor a checklist. So this entails whatever that we do to promote gender mainstreaming is not only what will be done, it's how it will be done, how it will be monitored, who will do the implementation, through what mechanisms and in consultation with whom. It has implications for us institutionally, as a financial institution, for example, or any other organization, as well as also operationally, looking externally, say in a financial institution for their clients. So it has two implications, institutionally and operationally. Lastly, it needs to be super intentional and using a phased approach that works for us. It needs to be tailored to our organization. It needs to be, our gender efforts need to be aligned with organizational strategies, priorities, with sufficient resources and capacities, and it needs buy-in and the engagement of leaders at all levels. So that's the first part that I wanted to mention before going directly into bias and then so on. What is the case? Forgive me. For some reason, 1 second, my screen sharing stopped. 1 second, please. So the case for gender equality, I was going to be speaking to that, and for some reason, my screen, went off. So allow me to reshare. And we're going to be speaking about the case for gender equality. Why does it even matter? Why are we talking about this today? And oftentimes we hear it is for women. Yes, it is. It has part of it, yes, for women, but it's not only for women. And I'll be bringing my screen. Hold on 1 second, please. Allow me, so we can walk through this together. So it's yes for women, for the well-being of women and girls, but it's also for the well-being of men and boys, for their for their well-being and mental well-being, and for them not to be under so much pressure of being the all-encompassing person who has to be physically perfect, but also manage financially and be the superhero in everything. And that puts men under a lot of pressure that also is not supposed to be the case, and leads to other parts that are very, very, very unhealthy. So it's actually, so gender equality is for women and girls, but also for men and boys, for healthier, equitable relationship within our households, within our societies. It's for healthier societies, more equitable societies. It's for improved economies, for better, economies for all of us. as national economies, global economies as well. It is for our organizational performance, and that's proven by all this is proven by research. It's not my opinion. So it's better for our organizations in terms of our better creativity, our innovation, our talent retention, attracting diverse talents, staff engagement and satisfaction, improve market understanding, as well as improved operational performance, meaning for us, for example, as financial institutions, improved products and services and impact on different segments of women and men. Okay, well, if there is a case, Sally, we now know the case, it's not only for women, it's for men and so on, and boys and everybody. Why is it not working? And here we really want to hear from you. I would be very grateful. We're going to be using a Menti platform. It's anonymous, completely anonymous. And you can either click on the link that I just shared in the chat, or you can scan the QR code that you have right in front of you in the screen. You can scan it through your phone, or click, if it's easier, to the link on the link in the chat. And we'd love to hear from you again on some of the barriers that are holding your institution or that you've seen are the key barriers in promoting gender equality. And I have two questions. So the first one for this one is going to be, what kind of resistance and barriers are you facing institutionally, internally? So that means internally facing within your organization. What is holding to promote gender equality? So where do you see resistance and barriers in promoting gender equality internally within your organization? What's holding your organization back? Again, this is anonymous, so I have no way to tell who's saying what. I'll keep my screen open. I do believe in our collective wisdom, so I do believe that we can all reflect together in an anonymous way and reflect what is holding other organizations back. I'll be sharing my screen so you can see also the different responses in a minute, but I wanted to keep this screen open just so in case you need to scan your QR code and if you prefer not to use the link. I'll then switch to our Menti screen so you can see the response of others. There are two questions and then we'll continue with our presentation. So I think I can now switch to Menti and would love to hear from you on Menti. It's again very, very easy. You can click on the link in the chat, and it's just going to take you right away to the screen on Menti for the questions. If there's anybody facing any issues with Menti, I'd be very grateful if you can let me know as well, and we'll manage that together as well. Yes. So I see the buy-in, men buy-in. Amazing. Lack of understanding that gender equality means equality of opportunity, then equality of outcomes. Amazing. 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 Knowledge and awareness for the promotion of gender equality. So the how can we do it? Bias. Women are higher judged on the same scale as men in different topics, and sometimes women do more bias to women than men. Men can be louder than women. Amazing, thank you so much. Persistent stereotypes about gender role, perceptions that gender equality is already solved. Amazing. So the case is done. Mission accomplie. Why are we talking about this? Resistance from staff who see gender initiatives as extra workload or not aligned with core business. Amazing points. Thank you so much. Potentially lack of knowledge and good practice in gender equality and overall knowledge. No, and maybe gender equality aims to reach equal status, equal opportunities, and equal value as well. No, rights, equal rights. So amazing points. Thank you so much. Gender roles and traditional institutional biases, great, and we're going to be getting exactly to that, as well as talking about how to get men's buy-in and leadership buy-in, be it men or other, as well as women as well, because as we know, we're not, bias is part of being human, I guess. No, women, men, and but the buy-in of of men is something key, particularly in in the financial sector, where many people that are in the leadership positions are still predominantly men. Um, we'll be moving to our next question. I'll give it just a couple of more seconds here, and then we'll move to our next question, and then we'll take it to our presentation again. Amazing. Okay. I'll go to the next question, and I wanted to ask you, where do you see barriers in promoting gender responsive products and services? So what is holding us operationally? So we spoke institutionally within our institutions, what are the resistance, points of resistance and barriers in promoting gender equality within? Now we're talking about what are barriers and resistance that you see happening in promoting gender responsive products and services? What is holding us back operationally? This is the last question, and then we'll be moving directly to the presentation to tackle some of those biases that you mentioned, as well as some of the other barriers that you mentioned as well. That will take a couple of more seconds here. So what do you think some of the barriers are in promoting gender responsive products and services, in your opinion? Or the parts where you see the most resistance to gender responsive products and services? The business case. Often the feedback is women borrowers use our products, so why is a separate product needed? Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And that's a great point, by the way. There is often there's lack of knowledge on final users. Amazing. Who do we want to target? And by the way, there's also it's been proven by research that products that are designed for women are actually products that are better for men as well. So it doesn't have to be a product for women. It can be designed with women in mind. The idea there is no need to accommodate products for women, unfortunately, yes. Lack of understanding of the benefits that gender responsive products bring. Amazing. Thank you so much. So the business case, again, back to the business case. Why do we do that? And without why, there will be no will to do that, to put any efforts in this. Capital engagement, getting investors to back solutions for women. Amazing. Thank you so much. Great points. Great points. Exactly where paternalistic culture, societal norms that influence the demand side. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. These are amazing insights. I appreciate your participation, your thoughts, and appreciate you very much. We're going to be. I'll wait a couple of seconds just to honor if there's anybody else that had any inputs, and then we'll just delve to the other side of the presentation, if you will. Okay. Perfect. We'll go directly into exactly you touched on. I wish I can copy and paste many of your responses on my presentation here because this is exactly you touched on many of the barriers that I'll be mentioning in a couple of minutes. So what's the elephant in the room? And we'll discuss that elephant later as well. Discriminatory social and cultural norms, unequitable social and cultural norms, and those decide who should do what, who should behave, who, as in what women and different segments of women and men and others, non-binary people also do. How should people behave? And these are basically what govern our societies. Who should own what? Those social-cultural norms decide on who should own what, who decides on what, how to spend our time, who has values, like what is the value of different segments of women and men, who can move freely, with whom they interact, and who accesses information. Unfortunately, these discriminatory social norms also seep into our society, including into our households, into interpersonal relationships, into laws and policies, as well as into our institutions and how they function formally and informally, both institutionally, like internally looking, but also operationally. I must mention that there is a prevalence of myths and misconceptions about gender equality, be it gender equality is against men, with gender equality, men will lose their power or maybe even their positions, and a lot of one common barrier which you kindly mentioned, amazingly, is the limited buy-in of men leaders. And that is because of many reasons, including the threats that they feel, many of them, the perceived threats that they feel for gender equality because it's seen as a woman thing, that's one. The lack of perceived benefits or awareness of how they can even do it, even if when they wish to be part of the, to support gender equality, and sometimes even fear of loss of masculinity. This is also has been proven by a lot of research when we talk about gender equality with men leaders. The third part is limited accountability for gender results. And so if there's nobody held accountable for gender results, why should we prioritize it? If it's not on my performance evaluation, I'll prioritize what's there, right? Also, if it's not aligned with my organizational strategy, why should I, there's always this, why would I prioritize gender equality? So this lack of alignment and lack of accountability is a major issue. Conducive systems, including conducive institutional policies, processes, budget, capacities, and culture, and bias, which you kindly mentioned. And I mentioned very briefly, we as human beings is part of human being a human is bias, no? Whether we like it or not, if you have a brain, you're biased because it's brilliant, it has been brilliantly wired for us to manage a huge amount of information at one go. And so our brains created lists of positives and negative things that are positive and safe, and negative and harmful to keep us safe. But with that, many of our making processes are based on unconscious, bias that we're not even aware of happening, but that impact our decision making processes. What are some examples of biases that we see, prominently? First is performance bias, where we underestimate women's performance and overestimate men's performance. And thank you so much. That was already a point that you mentioned earlier. And so men are hired, for their future potential, but women are always hired, or often hired, not always, often hired for their past performance. And we see that in performance evaluations, in hirings, but even in auditions, not even within the financial sector. There's likability bias, where women are expected to be kind, not versus assertive. If they're assertive, then they're seen as aggressive. But if they're kind, they're seen as ineffective. So they're often kept at a very tight rope. There's the maternity bias, where motherhood triggers assumptions for women that are less, that women are less committed or less competent. And so they, for example, being passed for a challenging, how can you say, opportunity at work, or for example, being blamed for small mistakes. Then there's affinity bias, liking people like ourselves, where managers, for example, hire other people that are similar to them. I'll go very fast on some of the biases we see in the financial sector, including cognitive bias. It's how we process information. For example, assuming men are better at managing larger loans because most of our past top clients were men. Or attribution bias. This is how we give credit for accomplishment or blame for failure, where a credit officer thinks that the success of a woman's business was because of her husband's support, while attributing the man's success to his skills. No, then there's structural bias that is ingrained in our systems, like having loan collateral policies requiring land titles when we know that women, don't have these land titles according to inheritance law within our countries. But instead of looking at other types of, for example, movable assets as for example, as collaterals or others. Implicit bias, for example, assuming women clients will be less interested in digital banking, so offering them less, not the same mobile products we offer men. Or explicit bias, for example, passing on, deciding not to target women for higher value investments because they don't invest so much. Or other process biases that are inherently exclude segments, for example, hosting trainings early on weekdays, excluding women with morning caregiving, duties. Okay, so bias affects our decision makings at all processes, and processes at all levels, it impacts our daily interactions with each other. It impacts our institutions, as organizations as well as operationally. Okay, we're all biased, Sally. What do we do about it? We need to manage it. And before we go further, I want to mention some strategies to build buy-in and shared ownership. So we need to manage our biases and we need to bring those under the spotlight to be able to manage it properly. Some of the strategies to build buy-in and shared ownership is one, please, we need men's engagement. This is not optional, it's an imperative. My humble opinion, we need less of he for she, but we need he and she for us all, he and she and they for us all, if you allow me. So some of the strategies to get the buy-in and shared ownership is to identify the myths and barriers that are often seen, to address the elephant in the room. And so is by raising awareness, on biases, on our biases, on gender equality, on how can we actually move this needle forward in a non-threatening manner. We need to train men leaders as visible allies and offer them the support and tools that help them to become visible allies. We need to create safe spaces, particularly for men and also other segments, to discuss their ideas and their thoughts and assumptions and questions and share their experiences. We need to also move beyond a zero-sum game where we see women lose with gender equality, women gain, men lose, women gain. It does not have to be a zero-sum game. We can look at our shared benefits and collective benefits. Other ways to also to address those is I want to say also is neutralizing the myths that we have. We really need to neutralize some of those key myths that we have, and to also lower the barriers for change. Next would be to highlight the business case. We've heard that in your responses as well, and it's very right on. Thank you so much. We need to master, knowing our audience, and that is for in the business case as well as for promoting gender equality, but also many other things. So we need some framing that actually aligns gender equality with broader strategic objectives, be it market growth or ESG, and in a way that resonates with our institutional leaders, men and women. And for example, if we speak gender equality to meet investors' expectations, not such only social good. Linking gender goals as well with business performance and institutional performance, like employee engagement, like client satisfaction, innovation, better decision-making processes, while providing relevant evidence. We need to also contextualize. So we need to provide contextual evidence. Please don't use foreign evidence, for gender equality, for example, based in Canada, where I am. Don't use that. Use local examples that can resonate, with your stakeholders, and with local examples of how this happened. Highlighting the shared benefits that it's for both of us, women and men, as staff, as clients, not only women. It's also highlighting the risks of inaction, for example, reputational or legal or retention risks. Highlighting gaps, using data, allowing data to speak, where we can use those data to highlight the gaps in pay or promotion, client reach or usage, as well as benchmark your organization versus others to see where you're excelling and where you're falling short. Engaging men as leaders, men leaders, other leaders, men and women leaders, as champions, appealing to their own, how can you say, their values and legacies, emphasizing how they can contribute as leaders, and their personal impact, how gender equality can lead to them, contributing to their personal and professional values and to their legacy. How they can lead cultural leadership and cultural transformation and make an impact. Assigning them roles, for example, sponsoring, chairing a gender committee, or and giving them the visibility for it. We need men leaders that are role models of inclusive behaviors, and this reinforces and inspires others to follow the lead and models commitment. not only women, please. We need many more men. And here I want to mention we need to engage men as allies, as co-owners, contributors, and beneficiaries of gender equalities. So we need to move from only consulting men and mainly moving this vehicle of gender equality by women to the spirit of co-creation, where we co-create women and men early on in project interventions and very frequently while promoting, with the right accountability, this leads to true engagement and ownership. We need to provide practical solutions, not just problems. Advocating for conducting an assessment within your organization using the right expertise, developing a phased action plan, as well as having the right structures within your organization that can move this needle forward. Highlighting quick wins where there are small, visible actions that can demonstrate progress and build momentum. Celebrating success, showcasing where gender focused, approaches improves results and highlighting that to peers and exchanging on those. Other strategies, we need to master communication, master our communications that is targeted towards specific segments, not a one blanket, but in a way that is contextually relevant, like I mentioned earlier, that is not in direct conflict with cultures, with our local cultures, but also we need to master targeted communication for different stakeholders. So speaking ROI, how gender equality leads to improved ROIs for executives, or compliance for regulators, or innovation for product teams. And we need to use the terms that work. Use whatever terms that work. If feminist is not the right type of the right language within your context, use another one. Master change, because gender equality is so much about change and change management. As leaders, be it men or women, you can do many things. Reflecting and knowing more about gender equality, about our own biases and how we can manage that. Acting as an active bystander, and advocate for gender responsive policies and practices within your organizations. You can lead the change. In fact, like Mr. Mandela said, you can be the change. Through your equitable behavior, through use of inclusive language, but also through daily interactions where you can, as a man, for example, taking paternity leaves and promoting positive masculinities among all. Lastly, approaches to address bias constructively. You can offer bias awareness training within your institution, on what biases are holding us back. You can review your policies and processes and see, and systems for bias. And you can use gender responsive data to unlock and to highlight where biases are interplayed within your organization. You can introduce some pause and reflect prompts that highlight where, in this key decision making, for example, for a loan officer to think, is my decision impacted by bias? Introducing such prompts can into our staff and our decision making processes can be super helpful. And lastly, is to also introduce some bias interrupters, for example, standardized evaluations or anonymized evaluations, or at some point, for example, for loans or for CVs and others. Now, I've spoken too much and I really thank you. I am so thrilled to be presenting to you two incredible presenters, Rudrashis Roy, as well as Alexa Marinkovic, and allow me to share with you their incredible journeys, both of them. So Rudrashis Roy is a senior investment officer, global from the GJSF portfolio coordinator at Responsibility. Rudrashis has over a decade of professional experience in the coverage of financial institutions in the Asia Pacific regions, both on the debt investment and credit side. After joining Responsibility in 2016, Rudrashis spent 6 years sourcing and managing a portfolio of debt investments in the financial inclusion space in South Asia. Over the last 2 years, he has been leading investment strategy and gender engagements for the Responsibility Managed Pool of GGSF. Alexa Marinkovic, he's the head of market development at Microfin, and he's responsible for leading market development departments, which is covering product management, business processing optimization, and project management. being part of Microfin since 2023 and has previous experience in banking sector, both in Bosnia as well as in Austria. And here I want to first move to ask, Alexa, if you allow me first, wanted to ask you if you can shed light on your journey, please, and your gender journey at Microfin, please.
Thank you, Sally. So greetings from my side, from Banja Luka, from Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'll try my best to give you our position on the gender-related topics and try to be some form of an inspiration of how some things could be done, and also maybe spotlight on some of the mistakes that we have made and that are certainly worth of avoiding. So when it comes to the institution I represent, we are the biggest microfinance institution in the region. We have a really big portfolio, around 250 million euros of portfolio, out of which close to 40% is the portfolio that is dispersed towards women. To be precise, it's 37.7%. Roughly 93 million euros is dispersed to women. It's mainly the purpose of the working and fixed capital. So we have significant amount of the women-owned businesses and women clients. Also, we were very lucky and that we kind of I think that we never actually had this problem with gender bias. So we like when it comes to Microfin staff, 50% of the management board is women. 57% of loan officers are women. So we have many women officers representing women interests on the field, which is really good. And then it showed um, significant benefits when we were doing this program that strengthens the position of women entrepreneurs. I will be talking about that briefly just in a minute or two. And 23.5% of our middle management, which is just the middle management, is actually a woman. So we operate in a very saturated market, 24 MFIs, and we own the 33% of the overall market. So it's not always an easy fight. And having said that, our gender journey kind of started from our perspective and from the business case and the business side when we started to notice that the change of the behavior from one side on the investors side, where the climate among the investors was going towards the gender specific issues. And at that time, we were thinking about this, some kind of a program that we want, with which we wanted to promote entrepreneurship. And we were also like being aware and tracking the metrics because women clients, female clients are with much better performance. They're much risk averse. They think it through more thoroughly, I would say. And it was a really specific and unique moment where these two different aspects met each other, and this idea was born that we wanted to create this specific program that addresses this issue of that is present in our country, which is not having almost any programs that strengthen and support the women entrepreneurship. So the women who actually want to embark on the entrepreneurial journey. And we were thinking like this is really weird because performance-wise, they perform better when in regards to the NPLs, and they're better promoters than the men's are. And we set up this program that actually brings all the knowledge, the experience, and the cap and the capital to one place. So we wanted to create this, and we created actually this one program that helps any woman who wants to become an entrepreneur get anything she needs. So if she needs a knowledge, then we can provide that. If she needs a capital to invest in the business, we're a financial institution. If they want an experience, we match them with each other and with the consultants that had experience in the field from before, so they also have an experience. And the thing I didn't mention is actually we've seen this trend where women in our country, they have these hobbies that are marketable. So many of them, out of just pure joy, start making jewelry, healthy foods, cakes. Sometimes, for example, like baby clothes and toys. All these things that can, that they show signs that if managed correctly, they can become like a stable small business that can bring income and maybe employ one or two more people. And we wanted to create that, and I think, and we embarked on that journey, and we created a set up a program that educated 150 women. We've done many good things there. The brand recognition was really good, and local communities and the society, that like the locals really accepted the program. We got really good engagement, but we also had many mistakes that we made because it was our first time with some of the challenges. But maybe I can speak about that later on. So not to tell everything now. Maybe give a word to Rudrashi. So.
No, no, absolutely. Thank you so much. We'll get to Rush's in a second, and maybe speaking to the challenges. This is what an incredible journey, I must say. I mean, and also some of the achievements that many financial institutions would aspire to reach, no, including your gender diversity, but also your clients. What are some of the challenges that you faced in this regard, in this journey, Alexa, please?
It's definitely building capacity to kind of educate women and getting the buy-in from the women as a stakeholders and the primary kind of target of the program, because we didn't have and we still have not great experience when it comes to this knowledge. So we don't have the knowledge side of the project, and it was really challenging, and it still is, to find the appropriate partner, because this topic is new. We're being rather, in Bosnia being rather small country, there are not many companies, consultants that do this kind of work. And we were really kind of specific of what we wanted to create. So we had this vision of how we want the program to be set up. And we, for the first year, actually, we didn't go on the path we imagined, which showed us some weaknesses of the program and of the project, and we're planning to change that in the years to come. But the greatest challenge was for us, not having an experience. Like for example, we could have done better analysis of the market needs of this woman segment, of this segment of these women. So what are their exact needs? What would they want to know? What kind of loans would they wish to have? We also operate under financial holding. So we also have a sister bank and an insurance company, which gives us really good position to provide an extra value to all the participants, and to have this kind of a product package that can serve these women, new women entrepreneurs very well. So I would say, to sum it up, we could do a better preparation, more like detailed analysis of actually the needs there. We kind of did the thing, and then we started to do analysis with them along the way. So, but it was really valuable, the experience we have now. So we actually know what were the pain points that we will most certainly correct in the years to come. I hope I answered your question
Yes.
because it's a broad topic. Maybe I can be more specific, but please just tell me if that's necessary.
This is great. Amazing. Thank you so much, Alexa. Some of the, maybe a couple of success factors that made things work, or a couple of lessons learned that you can shed light on and, for our audience.
Uh, so one of the success factors is most definitely like I think there are two or three main. The first one is the positive feedback we got from our investors who were really like so to say like very ready just to support us financially, and later we got some additional inquiries when it comes to the gender specific issues, some technical assistance programs that was offered to us, which is great. It kind of showed us that this is the right thing to do at the moment, and that it can have the biggest impact. So the investors were one thing. From the other side, we have our management board, which was aware of the importance of the topic. I mean, our management board is 50% women, so that was also another success factor. And yeah, like our top management as well, like one of our regional managers is also a woman, and she was really happy with the topic and supported it uh, with all the means she had. So we didn't actually so the business KPIs were not our top performance when it came to this project and the program we were developing. We kind of more or less wanted to position ourselves in that field, and we are well aware that the program in itself and the good brand image in the local communities will do some kind of indirect sales of our main products, I mean, being loans. And we've noticed that that was much appreciated by the participants because they were expecting the sales pitch and they never got one, and that's really good. And they became aware of who we are as a financial group, but they were never pushed uh, to uh, to buy a loan because loan was never the end goal of the program. So we actually wanted to make this a hub that can make an impact, and we're still working on it. And it's a long road, but I think it's a worth one.
Incredible. Congratulations on this, on your journey, on all these learnings, and I'm sure only positive things will come. If you allow me, Alexa, thank you so much to thank you first, and to also ask a couple of questions to Rashis, if
Yeah,
possible. So
please do.
thank you so much. Amazing, incredible for your journey, Rashis. And after hearing this incredible journey, from Alexa, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the winning strategies in engaging men leaders and other leaders within organizations, and within financial institutions on gender responsive financial inclusion? What have you seen work, Rudrashis? Please, and thank you.
Thank you, Sally, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the kind introduction earlier, Sally. So, as Sally mentioned, I represent responsibility. We are one of the three portfolio managers for GGSF, and hence I bring in that portfolio manager engagement perspective for the financial institutions. We have engaged with over 60 financial institutions across emerging markets globally since the launch of the fund in Jan 2024. I think Alexa talked very nicely about the institutional mindset and muscle that is needed for developing gender inclusive products and services. So maybe let me focus a little bit on what I've seen work for financial institutions who are gender smart when it comes to their internal policies and systems. And Sally, you mentioned strategies, right? What are the winning strategies in engaging leaders to drive gender inclusion? And I frankly happen to overuse the word strategy a lot, and it it sounds I mean, when you use the word strategy, it sounds like something where a lot of thought needs to be put into, a lot of brainstorming needs to happen. But frankly, in our experience of working with financial institutions who are gender forward, it's the financial institutions who do the simple things really well. One of the absolute prerequisites is strong commitment and buy-in from the management. And Sally, you alluded to a few of these points in your presentation earlier. But also, what is important is the realization from them that institutional processes need to be built in to drive a culture of equality and inclusion in the organization. It is not something that will be the default status just because there are a few lines ingrained in the HR policy of the organization. So active steps need to be taken by the organization to drive a culture of equality and inclusion. So what are some of the simple steps that we have seen being adopted across financial institutions? And Sally, again, I think alluded briefly to some of these points earlier. I think first is there should be periodic mandatory gender awareness training programs for everyone in the organization about specific constraints, challenges, and biases that women disproportionately face much more than men do, and how some of the unconscious biases can be mitigated. Secondly, there should also be special training programs for institutional leaders and managers on how women colleagues and subordinates can be supported and empowered given the constraints and gender norms that they encounter. I remember I came across this very simple framework in the HR policy of a Sri Lankan non-bank that we engaged with earlier this year. Um, the framework is called Support Her, Empower Her. And this was ingrained in the HR policy. This was something which was expected of all people in managerial roles in the company. And what the framework basically stated was that, let's take the first part of it, support her. It is basically a set of steps taken to make the female employee in the team feel included. So this could be, and frankly, not just the female employee, anyone in the team feel included. And this could be very simple steps like allowing flexible working hours to a young mother, clearly communicating no tolerance for any form of harassment to all the team members, including any casual jokes, making sure everyone's opinions are taken during team discussions over a specific project. Um, I remember when my wife joined back from her maternity leave a year back, uh, her team had this fortnightly ritual of doing Friday evening get-togethers and dinners, and it was one of her first weeks back from her maternity leave, and uh, it was Friday, and in the morning, the manager of the team um, came in front of the team and just said, uh, "Team, why don't we do a Friday lunch instead of a Friday dinner?" And he just said that. Everyone nodded. Everyone understood where this was coming from, and he didn't need to explain why he was saying it, right? Um, so that's what encompasses under the support her framework. Then there is the empower her framework, which is steps taken to ensure equality of opportunities and responsibilities to everyone in the team, both male employees and female employees. Constraints such as disproportionate burden of household care responsibilities doesn't mean that female team members should get less responsibilities or get assigned to less critical projects. Such decisions should be purely based on merit. The female employee probably just needs to be supported a little bit more with flexibility in terms of where and when during the day she might need to work, rescheduling of some early morning, late evening meetings, etc. So a little bit of support more to somewhat level the playing field is all that is needed. Now, just trainings are not enough, right? Ensuring these trainings are implemented in practice requires placing accountability on the manager. And this can be done through integrating relevant KPIs with adequate weightage in the appraisal process. And the assessment can be simply based on a 360-degree feedback process, where team members are asked to provide instances of how the manager made them feel included and empowered when they faced specific challenges personally or professionally during the year. And finally, and fourthly, at the organization level, the executive management, the senior management needs to constantly track progress by setting inclusion and equality goals organization wide. And here metrics such as gender disaggregated employee satisfaction scores, employee NPS scores, gender disaggregated data on recruitment, appraisal, attrition rates, um, participation in leadership development programs, etc., could be tracked to see if the company is progressing in the right direction and where more work is needed. Right? So I'll stop here, but broadly, just summarizing what I said, I mean, just uh, four simple things that I've seen work across organization: periodic mandatory gender awareness training, special training programs for institutional leaders, um, taking steps to bring in more accountability towards managers and institutional leaders, and uh, organization-wide performance tracking of gender disaggregated parameters by executive management. So all simple things, but all simple things, if executed well, I think are key to driving gender inclusion within the organization.
Wonderful points. Thank you so much for such a thoughtful, so very thoughtful inputs. Ending the last question is briefly, what advice would you offer, Rudrashis, to institutions just beginning this journey, especially those facing leadership hesitation, in your opinion, dear Rudrashis?
Sure. I'll be quick here. I mean, um, first, I think integrating a culture of equality and inclusion in the organization is not just the fundamentally right thing to do, but also table stakes for hiring and retaining good talent. I think the organization, the executive management needs to understand that. And we see anecdotally this is being increasingly demanded, especially by the young workforce, the millennials and the Gen Zs across markets who are not married to a particular organization like past generations were. And they are very forthcoming in calling out any form of discrimination, any form of toxic managerial styles, any lack of equality in the workplace. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, a culture needs to be instilled. Institution processes and feedback loops need to be set up as mentioned. Don't assume that it will be the default status where it would be fine to just manage deviations. And finally, um, I think this is, and Alexa also alluded to this when he spoke earlier, this is increasingly becoming an important consideration for DFIs and impact-focused investors, even those without a specific gender mandate like GGSF. Gender lens investing today, I think, is where ESG-focused investing was probably 5-7 years back. And my reckoning is that it will become fully mainstream in the next few years.
Rudrashis, thank you so, so much. Again, for such a thoughtful input, Rudrashis and Alexa, appreciate you very much. And I know I'm mindful also of the time. I wanted to stop for a second if there are any questions that might be there out. I don't see anything in the chat. I would have also referred to that. And wanted to maybe pause for a second to thank Alexa Rudrashis for your for your inputs, for such a thoughtful input, and for your efforts that made your contribution possible. I want to thank also Etienne for your presence all throughout the time. Noel for being there also while flying middle of the night, and Dima as well. But I wanted to stop if there are any questions from to our amazing panelists or also to us, and for a second. And I wanted to leave you with one maybe while you're thinking if there are any questions. The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is tenacity. The fears are paper tigers. You can do anything you decide to do. So it basically goes back to both what Rudrashi said as well as Alexa reinforced. It's what we decide on, and it's totally about our commitment. The rest is our paper tigers, and the rest is tenacity. I thank you again. I wanted to we want to just launch a poll at the end to ask about your opinion, but also I wanted to look if there are any questions that you may have. Thank you so much, Rudrashis, also for sharing your context as well. Would like to launch maybe a one question poll towards the end. While waiting, if there are any questions, I'm happy to also stay more time if at all needed. But wanted to get your opinion about our webinar, how you saw it, and otherwise, I again thank you very much for making the time for our webinar. Again, with Rashis and Alexa, thank you so much. I know this is a particular time for both of you on a personal, professional level, so I appreciate your presence with us today very, very much. Etienne, thank you so much for making the time. Noel, Dima, appreciate you very much. And Noel, thank you, appreciate you very, very much for all your efforts behind the scene that made today possible as well. I thank all our participants for making the time, for our audience for making the time. I know during your busy schedules, I hope there were some bright ideas that you can take and put into action. Appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you, Sally, for sharing your thoughts.
Thanks everyone for joining. And thanks a lot, Sally.
Thank you so much, Etienne. Thank you so much, Alexa. Thank you, Rudrashis. I'm here if you have any questions or want to have any